Hiya, Scott. Thank you very much for joining me today on Wellness Uncut. It's an absolute pleasure and a privilege to have you join me today. Now, for those of you that don't know, Scott Mathias, I presume I've got...
Mathias.
What is it?
Mathias.
Mathias, okay.
Yeah.
You're an author of 4 different books, and also you've got a background in television, haven't you? In journalism and writing as well. So I think that's fantastic. My background as well is in the media. And it's interesting how you've kind of moved forward into, sort of communicating with your starry family, which we're going to talk about today. And one of Scott's books that he's written is actually called The Antares Seals, which is the one that I want to deeply explore today. And have you got a copy of it that you can show? It's absolutely amazing. So we're going to be talking about that, but also looking at some of his raw food books as well, and how it all came about for him. So welcome, Scott. Do you want to first of all tell us a little bit more about yourself and why you're doing what you're doing?
Okay, why am I doing what I'm doing? Well, let's go back to about myself. The process of living in this human world has been extremely tough for the 2 avatars that I have participated with, 1953 up till 1987, and from 1987 up to this date. Very interesting, to say the least, because put in a nutshell, everything that I have done first and second time around had prepared me for this particular time. My role as a journalist, both in radio and television in New Zealand and Australia, primarily Australia, prepared me for the process of being able to articulate the story and write the story. Not many people can write a story. They could tell a story, but not write a story. But anyway, I just managed to get the whole thing lock, stock and barrel. So not only do they have that skill and the capacity to articulate a particular story, but also to know what's going on behind the scenes in the media. And right now, with the media globally, things are going awry. The whole issue of whether the media is actually speaking the truth or sharing the truth is under the spotlight. And the most amazing thing, Hayden, is, and to your viewers, to your clan group, is that I'm meeting people every day who I thought were sort of simple Joes, watching the TV, going with the flow, doing what the government told them to do, not questioning everything. But to my delight, more and more people questioning the validity of the virtue. Now, when I say the validity of the virtue, it means that you could get do-gooding politicians and other individuals in the community espousing a particular narrative that may or may not sound plausible. But have you noticed that in current times, with regard to the CD thing, everything is the directive. Humans are being told what to do. And this is getting a lot of humans' backs up because we actually aren't that stupid. The humans aren't stupid. The amount of beautiful information that's actually pouring in that enables people to filter the story and actually quickly deduce that doesn't feel right or that feels appropriate or otherwise. They're just increasing by the day. People are just going, yeah, there's something behind this. This is ridiculous. What's going on here? So leading up to this, all the training as such in the media provided me with an opportunity to really fine-tune the process of discernment as far as truth is concerned. Having worked in the press gallery in Canberra during the Hawke and Keating years, I learned to detect a lie and BS at 500 paces. It was very easy. It had a lot to do with the words that these people were using, but also the body language that they were using, and also how they would cozy up to certain other journalists who were working for major newspaper organizations at the time. The Age, I won't mention the name because I think she's still around. The Sydney Morning Herald, the Australian, and the big voices basically that were owned by the newspaper magnates as such. So I got to realize that if a politician or anybody begins to tell a story and run a narrative, it'll be run pretty well word for word by the agenda executors. So I began to see that very, very quickly. Moving forward very quickly now to 2002. Now, I will talk about 1987 because it's a very auspicious November 1987, a very auspicious time for this avatar, okay? And in that regards, I'm saying the same physical body, but two soul essence, okay? Same physical body, but two soul essence. So come to 2002, and I'm sitting in a little resort that I'd been to for 6 or 7 times in Noosa of all places, and I'm scribbling away on a napkin. I'm doodling, and when I cast my mind back to that moment, and I can remember the exact position, I can remember the round table, and I can remember myself sitting there and just doodling, and each of the doodles began to take form. They began to actually have formative significance. It wasn't just scribbling and one continuous flow. It was something definitive. And I thought, what is this? How can it be? And what transpired was I thought, okay, it was on a napkin, put the napkin to one side. And when I went home after this break, I pulled it out again. And then all of a sudden, sign or seal by seal, I began to ascribe meaning. And the meaning that's in the book for each of these seals is just as it was on that day. So, for instance, the first thing, I'll go through this, the first seal, Shemesis, same word, every aspect of the human experience is filtered through the heart, appropriately or inappropriately. The heart is opened and the outcome will be in accordance with the human virtue and the thought of the prime source.
So there's 12 different seals in the book, isn't there?
12 different seals. So I had 12 different symbols on this napkin. The second one is a chromos, to align with the energies of all sunlight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a look through the seals, actually. There was a few of them that stood out for me personally that I think are really intriguing, and I think that the people who are going to be watching this will really resonate with them as well. First of all, the one that you mentioned before, the Shimtias, the heart one, which I think is pretty profound. The new reality in heart. And actually, that one, when I saw that seal, I recognized it, and it was actually from a dream that I'd had probably about 6 months ago. It was kind of like a lucid dream, but I dreamt that I was looking at my naked torso, and in my heart I had a tattoo that was underneath the skin, and it almost looked like a burn or something like that. And in the dream, I was looking at this tattoo that was underneath the skin on my heart, and I was like, what is that? I've never seen that symbol before. And it was almost like I was like, oh, what is it? Is it Japanese? Is it what where does it originate from? And then I got, oh, it's the language of light. And I think that a lot of the symbols that are in the seals, that they look like inscriptions from a language of light. And I was pretty blown away.
I'm blown away. My left side is tingling, which just indicates very clearly that there's absolute truth in what you're experiencing here. So I'm sure you'll put up links for your viewers. In the blog, there is 1 to 12 and they're black and white. They're all there, and you can, and your viewers can actually go through and actually check them out. One of the most significant attributes of the seals is this thing called the
master seal.
The master seal.
Yes.
And this is remarkable, because this is actually a form of GPS that we use in the craft, and we're skipping ahead here anyway. And embedded in each of these, in this master seal, are the 12 seals, which have literally been dialed up. Because round the edge here, you can't see it on this here, because this is actually a magnet that I sell. Around the edge here, a whole lot of other symbols on either side. And we literally pull those up in order to actually go somewhere or to achieve a certain outcome. Everything is vibrational. The information that we receive comes directly from the prime source. fast tracking. Okay, 2002. Let's just go back. 2002. Get the symbols. Go home. Get the transcript. And I should have actually brought it out now, but I've got literally a synopsis that I wrote up, and the little staples rusty and the paper's faded. It's got the original inscription, the original seal on it. And I put it away because it just didn't feel right at that particular time to begin talking about them or bring them out. Now, this is sort of post 9/11, the emergence of Al-Qaeda and all the BS associated with the contrivance there. All agenda-driven, all driven around oil, all driven around the economics of the planet by other people without any consideration for the human soul at all. So I put them away. And then last year is 2019. So two from 19 is 17. So 17 years later, I am in Vietnam. And we were there as a result of some major value reassessment, my partner and I, after she had some surgery. And we literally sold everything up and, dispossessed. We detached, disassociated, got rid of stuff that we just didn't need in our life any longer, and got down to a couple of suitcases, which was a very interesting experience. But I did take in the suitcase to Vietnam this synopsis. I just put it in there. I thought, I just might need that, see what happens. As it turned out, I began last January 2019. I began to write, and I couldn't stop. So I thought, okay, I've done this before. I've written, couldn't stop. Completely different subject matter. The other books basically have been on gut health. My specialty has been integrative nutrition and gut health, whole food, plant-based, vegan living. So I'm going, well, all that adds up. All of that stuff gets us to a point now of enlightenment through appropriate food intake and energy particles and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I was looking at those books that you'd written, The Ultimate Gut Fix and Let's Eat Raw and Raw Vegan Meals and Understanding the Divine Gut as well, because you've got a real connection and relation to human biology and the earth, haven't you? They come hand in hand together for you.
Absolutely. And, in my first avatar growing up in New Zealand, very close to nature, very close to the forests and to the rivers and to the mountains and streams and what have you. Much of my time in solitude, being the youngest of 4 children, 3 older siblings, be seen and not heard post Second World War and that sort of stuff. So my dog and I would just literally bugger off into the bush and spend hours communicating consciously and subconsciously with the divas and all sorts of things. So it only seemed appropriate. And then also my gut issues began at the age of 8. The body that I currently inhabit began to experience problems at the age of 8 years old. That's when this reflux occurred. That's when this level of sensitivity and empathy that I have within the two souls became quite profound, because at that age, child wants to take pain away from another person who's experiencing pain, wants to heal other things around, plus everything else. And also the pressures of the 3D magnetic field, on the biology of the human body. Very, very profound. So that's when my gut issues started. So from that point on, I developed a very, very, very keen sense of discernment about what I would eat, what affects me, so on and so forth. Ironically, and this is interesting, it happened about the same time as the oral polio vaccine was introduced. And in those days, they whip out your tonsils and adenoids. Now, both of those stories now are part and parcel of the discussions I have with people around their gut health, because, the tonsils and adenoids are part of the filtering process for the
so
body.
How do the Antares Seals, how they are like a follow-on from that? How does that link together?
Well, basically preparing the body for electrification. This is the key here. So the whole process of birth and death, I'm not involved in that. Karma doesn't exist, for instance. So the whole process of birth and death for humans is finished. That experiment or that form of subjugation is over now. the whole thing about recycling the souls by taking up another biological life form is finished. The role that the perpetrators of this crime against humanity is concerned was just one single agenda, and that is to use the human for whatever purposes they felt they needed to use them for. And that's been the case. So we're seeing now, interestingly enough, a culmination of the absolute toxification of this process. And humans are now being given the opportunity to go in, contemplate, reassess values, and do all sorts of things. And just that's why they're waking up and saying, no, this is over. This BS is over. No more subjugation. Whether it's vaccinations, whether it's a form of education, whether it's the religion. And I talk about this in the book. And by the way, this book goes with any faith, because there are attributes of all faiths that are very good: love, care, and compassion. But it tends to be the monolithic belief in infrastructure, which again is economically based, that actually has tarnished the whole faith system, or the faith machine, or the faith the faith process.
So you're talking about the Earth's ruling cabal fundamentally. Are you talking about it's almost like aligned with what David Icke speaks about and what he's been speaking about in the Truth Vibrations?
Yeah, absolutely. And in this particular case, I make specific reference to the Draco and the role that the Draco played in basically taking control of the human over a series, about 15,000 years basically, and actually integrating their consciousness into a range of civilizations and belief systems and religious belief systems. One of the worst perhaps was the Egyptian, but there were previous to that. And also how they had the ability to literally subjugate the soul to the point where they just use the ego of the human in order to maintain their presence, particularly through politics and through religious belief systems. And now we've got medical belief systems. So the same thing has occurred as far as, say, the pharmaceutical companies pushing these toxins to fill the human body, which, by the way, will operate perfectly without any of this interference. Same thing. I call them the shadowers and deceivers. These are the stained ones. The most beautiful thing is that the Draco in their own right have gone. We have ushered them out of this particular sector. And let's assume, well, let's say, for want of a word, in a state of re-education or rehabilitation, because there is a bit of a punchline to this whole thing. So while humans have actually been subjugated for, all this time, there was an agreement. And I talk more about this. So there has been tremendous empathic consent on behalf of humans to allow this to happen. Now it's over. It's finished. It has no further place in the 3D world. But in saying that, as you know, and as your viewers know, we're actually seeing the 3D world dissolving. We're seeing that infrastructure that they have used to keep humans subjugated breaking down, because it is against the natural law. It has always been against the natural virtue. So therefore, none of that or anything that's against the natural virtue and principally powered by the temporal capacity, so powered by the mind. And this is what the Draco is about. They're not of the heart, they're of the mind. So anything created of the mind is beginning to fall away, and humans are beginning to actually feel the responses through their heart. The brain is the receiver and the transmitter. It's not a point for original thought. And that's the other thing. So let's go back to 1987 here. So last year got the book going, and here's the book. Okay, we'll come back to that set. Let's go back to 1987. I had my former avatar had the experience of a child dying, and what happened was that the pain and the grief, which is beyond palpability, provided an opportunity for an exchange of souls. Now, as it turned out, I have done this hundreds of times, thousands of times, across not just the earth realm, but other realms as well.
You're talking about a walk-in?
A walk-in. So this walk-in, this experience, this thing actually occurred. 3 weeks, almost to a month of absolute grief, where my blood pressure dropped, my heart rate dropped, and I was in a semi-comatose state. Nothing anybody could do, didn't require drugs, it just had to go its natural course. Did I know this was happening at this time? No, I didn't. I had no idea. I had no idea it was happening. It wasn't until writing in Vietnam that all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed and everything started to flow, and I started to put it all together. And this occurred for that reason. That occurred because these two were bolted together, and this occurred. People, by the way, who were in my life in the former avatar were there basically to ensure that there was some degree of comfort and support for me through love, through friendship, through loyalty, and now they're members of my craft. Okay, so the humans, these Elan, who actually came into these human bodies and were in my life on a daily basis as I was growing up and in my later years, they now moved on. They've left the human body. The body has died, and they've gone back to the craft. How do I know about my craft? Visualization. It just occurred. It's just, and there's no channeling here. I have to say, Hayden, there's no intermediary. This is conscious writing. This is a consciousness that begins as a story, and you cannot make this up. This is the most amazing thing. You know, even if in the wildest imagination, you couldn't make this up. And that's the most beautiful thing about it, because in this process, my heart began to change. My body began to change. The whole gut health, whole food plant-based thing all put together. Oh, okay, so that's why that was happening. So it's prepared the body now for the arrival, which has already begun, of these vast waves of photonic energy. And instead of hitting resistance, which is what's occurring with many people at the moment, with the byproduct of pain and severe anxiety and sometimes depression and also suicide attempts, the pain of actually receiving this pure photonic energy and hitting the density of the human physical body becomes so great, and they just want to check out. So if you begin to do things like integrating the seals one by one into your daily reality, whether it's just hanging on a fridge, or whether it's reading the book, or whether it's having some cards. I've also got vision cards, and I've got beautiful souls who put them up on their bedroom wall, and they've got them there the whole time that they can refer to. Each one of these.
Sometimes it's enough, isn't it, just to actually observe them, just to view them and allow the symbol to be integrated into the subconscious, because the subconscious mind understands this language. Your conscious mind might not, but your subconscious does. Now, I do have a question for you at this stage, because obviously
it works on a cellular level, I should say. Yes, the conscious mind may not be aware, but the subconscious gets it. But this works on a cellular level, because concurrent with the presentation of the 12 seals, you've got actually the reintegration of the 12 strands of the DNA, which is really quite fascinating. So, you know, what's happening is these revive the memory. So these work on the physical just as much as they do on the conscious, but they work on the physical. The physical has a consciousness in its own right.
So they're transmutating the lie within the cellular memory, yeah?
Transmuting the lie within the daily memory. That is a brilliant way to put it. Absolutely perfect.
Okay, so I have been researching these little babies recently, which are called the Seals of Solomon.
Yep.
All right. So you've probably heard of those before. So the Seals of Solomon. So obviously we know that Solomon was the son of King David, and Solomon, you know, sort of created these seals, you know, like the first pentacle of Jupiter and Mars and Mercury and Venus and all of the planets. And each one is aligned to the angelic realm, you know, so different angels, and they have different scriptures around the side. So they're quite a similar concept to the seals, the Antares Seals that have been developed. Although I know that the Seals of Solomon have also been used for quite dark purposes as well. But is there some sort of alignment between the two, or is it almost like an upgrade of those old seals?
Okay, so the Elan, coming back to 1987 when this walk-in thing occurred, and then just gradual disintegration of marital relationships. I spent 4 or 5 years without memory of my previous avatar. I couldn't remember childhood experiences and things like that, but that's in the body, okay? But gradually the memory and everything began to come back. Last year when I was writing, and particularly when I went on to the UK after Vietnam last year and went to places like Rosslyn Chapel, and Rosslyn Chapel, for those of you who are unaware, is a Scottish chapel just outside of Edinburgh that's just full of the seals and symbols across a range of belief systems. All key religions are in there, including the Eastern religions. Yes, you've got the Freemason symbols because the Masons built the place.
So like the pentagram,
you've got
yeah?
Knights Templar, pardon me?
Like the pentagram?
There are variations on the pentagram, but that's something that's not part of our conscious reality. That is, again, a subscriptive belief system that holds to certain outcomes when you use those symbols. And again, they have charts and they have method and approach and they have regalia and they have subjugation through hierarchy that holds people to those belief systems when you participate with those things. That's the dark side of symbolism. The light side of it, basically, it's a free choice. Okay, it's a choice. There's no subscriptive or prescriptive approach to this other than what you feel. And if it doesn't feel okay for you, then that's fine. I don't have any vested interest in whether you do or whether you don't. It would be nice if you did get it, because that means that everybody else's job in terms of actually helping the frequency change and transmutation of the old 3D matrix into something that actually is resonating at a higher frequency is made so much easier. So the thing is that each of the symbols has its origins basically from the Antares. When Antares basically no longer exists, it's the red heart of the Scorpio constellation. So you literally see that orangey red light down the right-hand corner, depending on where the Scorpio constellation sits. And you'll see that coming towards you, but that's 640 million light years away. But there's nothing behind that light. So all we're seeing the light is come towards us, but the actual planet as such is gone. Once we knew what was going on, we actually had to leave the planet. We literally took to the skies. The Elan literally are a group of, for want of a numerical qualification, several thousand individuated electrified entities. We are electric beings, basically, that travel into other species and other cultures and do the work that I'm currently doing, and that a number of other people on planet Earth that I'm connected with are also doing at the moment by bringing in these symbols. But coming back to your question, there we were in Rosslyn Chapel receiving the story about the apprentice, and you can go online and check this out. The apprentice column in Rosslyn Chapel is a beautiful column with spirals. It's down as you look down towards the main altar on the right-hand side. And the young apprentice basically was Elan. He was one of us. His job was basically, because Rosslyn Chapel would ultimately see 300,000 or 400,000 visitors a year, which is currently what it's doing, because it would form part of the Dan Brown story through the Da Vinci Code and the publicity that it would get. We basically saw an opportunity to integrate a number of symbols into Rosslyn design. So there are 13 symbols behind the main altar in what's referred to as the area where the ladies' altar is, that actually come down with these symbols on the end of them, and they all have a frequency. When I showed the seals to the young tour guide, her name was Hannah, beautiful soul, and she went, my goodness. And she didn't talk about it in her presentation, by the way. She didn't even mention it. No one knows about them, but they're there. She says, come here and look. And I looked at the seals that I had on my phone. I looked at what was up there, and she said, yes, each one of those resonates at a different frequency. So each one of these resonates at a different frequency. So to come back to your question, we have been popping in and out of civilization, including Mayan, Incan. We created the runes, for instance. So each of the runes has a frequency. Each of the runes has a message. and that was to tap into the culture of the day, the esoteric culture of the day through the Celtic wisdom, the Druidic wisdom. And we have done this repeatedly in order to actually bring about change. So it's like the magician coming to visit the school kids and doing magic tricks and then leaving, and then the kids go, wow, how did they do that trick? And they will always remember the magician visiting school or the magic show as a child. And that's what we did. I had an occasion last year in the woodlands in Scotland, a place near called Pitlochry, of actually seeing a couple of shaman actually turn up to my mind's eye in this woodlot with a friend of my partner's at the time, who was undergoing a few difficulties, and also a smaller height challenged entity who was quite remarkable. But these people were actually on some form of what do you call the South American stuff again?
Hopi?
The people going down there for that experience, ayahuasca.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
having
ayahuasca.
some sort of, a San Pedro ayahuasca type experience with some of the weeds, herbs, and things that they're working on. And what they've done is they've transmitted themselves into the future. So at that particular point or two, they emerged. And it was a remarkable experience. I knew them. I knew them. My friend Andrew, he didn't know them. And it was an extraordinary experience. So the recognition all the way through a series of cultures and civilizations, going back 1.5 million years ago when the planet was totally terraformed. I talk more about that. This was a planet that was basically full of the most amazing flora and fauna that you can ever imagine. And we're talking, for want of a linear representation, 5-6 frequency. Massive. Now, planet Earth has the memory of that high frequency in her soul. So these, relate entirely to her frequencies as well. There's two things happening here. One, helping humans to bring their frequency up so that they stop raping the planet and spoiling the planet and just doing really bad things to the planet. And the other one basically is to help planet Earth. And we've got this thing called direct and reflect. So we're directing through thought and love, care and compassion on a daily basis to planet Earth, and she in turn is reflecting back to us, reflecting back to you. The consciousness of planet Earth is literally increasing by the hour at the moment because the energies that are flooding the planet are literally coming full on. And there will be a snap. And I talk about this, the point of final correction here. So each of the seals is preparation. They're little milestones that enable the physical body to deal with what is occurring, the consciousness to deal with what is occurring. And it's a choice. But I have to tell you that I know the choice that most of the people that I'm currently speaking with have made is very powerful and very positive, and they get the connection. And I know many of your viewers will get the connection. They will understand this. Will they be needed?
Do they have to go through a particular process with the seals? Like, do you have to sort of observe seal 1 first and then go to 2? Or are they more sort of viewed as a collective?
There's two things here. Look, originally it was like, dual 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 12. 1, 2, and 3. Shomesis is the heart. Chromos is number 2. Is the sun. Triane is reflecting with all that you come into reflection with is number 3. You get those 3 organized, and then the rest just follow on. The rest are quite cosmological in the purest sense. Some deal with language. Some deal with actually activating the star language. While most communications that we have are actually telepathic, in order to actually unlock the body by uttering the star language. Number 6 is Garwish, the return of vibrational language.
I like seal 9, the Arvanka Sud, which prepares to open the doors to other civilizations. That one really, that really got to me, that one. And also the Garom Ri, is it?
The next one.
Yeah, and that's the salute, the arrival of beings for other worlds, because I know that's what we're all waiting for. So
right.
when's it happening? When are they coming?
Okay. In order for this to occur, you've got to be on the same frequency level that they are. Otherwise, you're not going to see them. So You have to prepare the physical body. You have to release density. They have no density within them. How can they reflect with a dense body? Which is why we are not seeing them up to this particular point.
Now we've got our lucid dream states.
Rather than the Plagiaria, the Andromeda, Arturia basically work on the dream state. We have the capacity more predominantly to come into bodies, to come into the physical human form. Incredibly limited. I mean, I can't begin to tell you the sort of pain I've experienced in my life, and I know a lot of other of your viewers have experienced similar pain in their life. You know, while I got whacked as a child, there are other kids who were physically and sexually abused as a child, and these are angels. These are special beings. You know, this is the first wave post the Second World War, and then we were seeing other waves begin to emerge, and we're now at a point of crystalline, where the level of human experience and basically pain in the human body is virtually zero. So you've got these young souls now who are most beautiful, but of course they're reacting to the 3D world, and guess what they do to them? They inject them with toxins, and they create this thing called autism, and they create this thing called ADHD and stuff like that. So these poor souls basically, which are in the process of being, let's say, rescued, although that's not a name that I like to use, because we're not here to rescue humans. Humans are not being rescued here. All we're doing is saying, okay, now if you want to go down this track, if you want to refine your energy intake through your food and through your thoughts, if you want to actually allow each of these symbols just to work on the physical body through recognition, there's no process. You can take them into meditation if you like, or you can put a big one on the wall and walk past it every few minutes, or you know, during your day, whether it's in your house or wherever, you can actually just allow this to come in. 1056 hertz, which is actually still very low in cosmological terms. People say, oh, you listen to 528 activate the heart. No, 1056 is the heart activation, and the body has the capacity to actually go even higher. Prime source operates, for want of a way to describe it, in the billion hertz capacity. It's phenomenal. When you think about what can be created when in cosmological terms, it's more than a AAA battery's worth. I can assure you of that.
Yeah.
So
what I'm hearing though, basically, is what you're saying is like a lot of this old symbology is kind of laden with those old control paradigms, whereas the Antares Seals are heart-related information that changes our DNA fundamentally, and it helps us become a light body so that we can then align with our galactic families again.
You've hit the nail on the head. That is a perfect explanation.
Oh, thank God. Well, you know, it's
to align with your families, you know. Yeah. Part of the process now as I go through cosmic integrations with people, and I take them back to a point of origin through their own recognition, by the way. I never say to anybody, oh, you are this, that, or the other thing, because that's disempowering, you know. That takes away the power. We're not here to take anything, only to give, because that's our empathic nature. So actually using star language, which you mentioned before, what that does, it actually works on the harmonics of the physical body, which helps the release of the density. Because there's a point where you don't need to have star language with your family. You are in telepathic, you're synchronized telepathically and energetically, to the point where the emergence, and this is what's happening, you know, we literally are pulling them closer to us at this particular point, because the human frequency is changing. Okay, they're not just going to come in and go wham, because if they did that, you know, the body would implode. We're talking about light entities that have a radiance that really one would need to close their eyes at, because it's so bright. Now, the idea is because your frequency is so high through the food you eat, the thoughts you have, and the way you conduct yourself, the disengagement from the 3D world, the ability to isolate yourself right now, the ability to actually just transmute, just say, yeah, I no longer need to have that experience. I no longer have the need to react that way. which is a key to this whole thing. I can sit quietly in a state of nothingness, which is also a form of reaction, by the way. Doing nothing is a response, and it's perfectly okay. So disengaging from the human, the contrived human attributes, that's the other thing. Because much of the human is just overlaid.
That's right. We're just like one big onion. That's a bit of a clusterfuck. So so you're still doing these sessions for people then? Because I know that you offer consultations to help people to align to their star families and understand their human purpose, etc., via Zoom tutorials. And I know that a lot of my viewers the penny has started to drop. They've started to understand the traits of whether they're a Pleiadian starseed, Lyran or Orion, or they may come from Andromeda. And they're doing the research, and they're starting to understand that they're multidimensional. They're not just one of those. They're actually aspects of all of them. But then they want more information. So are you the right person for them to come to next, and to sort of then go on their own individual journey, which will help them fully integrate and understand where they've come from and who they're aligned to?
Yes, and it would appear so that I am the person who would enable them to connect with the memory of their origins, and this is the key to the whole thing. And the other key is really, okay, now go back into that 3D world and implode it, dissolve it through your own reflections and through your own radiance. The other thing too, Hayden, is skills and competencies, very important. For a short time, going back in the early 2000s, I spent time with one of the big five in the business consulting world, which was really interesting. I was an industry person, media industry, and it was at the point when all this convergent technology was beginning to actually happen. And, do I have a strong technology background? I have a big understanding. I'm not a details guy. I'd work with people who had those competencies. And the message I'm getting right now is use technology as well to help this process. A lot of people have an aversion to technology, but there are many beautiful attributes of what we've got. For instance, we're able to talk now. Whereas, some years ago when I was developing models around the omnimedia network distribution model, i.e. taking a piece of information and sending it out over a whole lot of channels, which is now happening, we had difficulty in explaining to people, particularly those who are old school, how to visualize where technology was going to go. And it's pretty well gone to plan. It's pretty well gone in the direction. Now, this we use, this you use, this your viewers can use. My group, our ground team, people coming out of the Cosmic Consciousness Conference in January up in Uluru, which was a turning point from an energetic perspective. We're communicating with them daily and weekly, basically through Facebook. I have a Patreon page as well, so there are people who are my patrons, basically, but they're the Seals patrons. And this enables things to be produced. It enables webinars, and the first big one this weekend, because this weekend I should have been down in Victoria, for instance, doing a physical presentation. So we've now bought that online, and that all comes at a cost. So the patrons have paid for that, which is fabulous, because what we're doing here is we're literally getting the instruments of love, care, and compassion into the hearts of those humans who are open to this change, who have the courage to actually go down the change thing. Because I can tell you that my journey here, walk in 1987, gradual realization, gradual exposure to stories, gradual exposure to understanding. It took all this time. I don't want to be that long for you or for Daisy or for anybody else, quite frankly. It should be a lot faster. So I've come back 300 years, but I've come back from a time of absolute dystopia. So we've got the split occurring at the moment. We've got the old 3D matrix, which will continue only for another 300 years. And we've got this new earth emerging through frequency and vibration. But I have to say, 300 years from now, it's nightmare. It's gone beyond anything you can imagine here. You think this is bad from the point of subjugation and oppression? the corporatocracy, which actually begins to run the political system and the religious system.
But you're just talking about one timeline, because obviously we know that the future is mutable, and actually so is the past. But you know,
there's a little story here, is that, you know, when you come back to change timelines, and there have been TV programs about this, Travelers and various other things, it's quite exciting, because what I saw 300 years from now is unpalatable for any soul, for any individuated expression of the prime source. It is literally darkness gone bad, gone worse than bad. So what we're doing now, and you used the word before, it was transmuting basically the timeline so that the future can evolve. Okay, not devolve into basically a higher frequency, evolve into a higher frequency. And we do this all the time. We have the capacity to do it.
So are these...
But right now, for the humans, it's a real thing. I have to say, right now here, it's very real for many humans.
But are there two potential parallel realities that can be created here? So there's the dystopic reality and the utopic reality as well. So you've got the two options, and you have to make a choice right here, right now, as the Earth is splitting in two.
Yep.
Yeah.
You've got it, man. You have got it. You're bang on.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, it's like
the old world goes a rock behind the sun. I mean, literally, planet Earth wants those humans who aren't in accordance with the same frequency that she has at the moment, and she is expanding hourly. Literally, it's happening hourly. This thing is growing. She wants them off. So be prepared for a physical event to occur within the next month or two on planet Earth.
When you say a physical event, what are you talking about? Like an earthquake? Or are you talking more about the Dracos leaving, or have they gone already? And where have they gone?
They've gone. They've gone. Yeah, they've gone. We actually basically, in concert with the other members of our team, which are the Plagiaria and the others. And by the way, the Plagiaria is like China, and inside China you've got different groups and different dialects and different physical sizes and different clothing. So there's 7 stars in the whole group, and each one of those stars basically has different types of people, but they have formed this collective called Plagiaria. And each one of them also has specific competencies and skills that they take out into the cosmos and this and others. And through the sun, the outside, going through the sun and into other multiverses is the most phenomenal experience. I mean, it's incredible what's beyond the sun, through the sun. Okay, so you've got the solar system now, and there's the sun. Behind the sun is where the old 3D Earth will go. Okay, but only another 300 years. So she's literally splitting her soul in two, okay? One to continue the dystopic timeline and one into the utopic timeline. And that's where we're going. Will a majority stay with the old? I hope not. Will there be a middle ground for people? Yeah, like some people sort of know, not sure. So those are the ones that we're basically talking to now and saying, listen, would you like to accelerate out of the fear associated with the process of change by using the seals, okay, and comfortably doing it in your own time? There's no gatherings, there's no buildings, there's no hierarchy, there's no people in clothing, there's no people holding staffs, or there's no people in white beards or anything like that, but have the nature of your cosmic relationship begin to emerge to you through even these interviews, you know, or through the integrations I do one-on-one. The language, as I mentioned before, is a very big part of this. Unburdening the physical body from the 26 letters of the alphabet, okay, the 26 sigils, the 26 spells, A, B, C, and going into different tonal harmonic aspects of the throat, okay, enabling the resonance. So it's a bit like when the Aboriginals play their didgeridoo, the harmonics from the didgeridoo goes through their entire body, okay, and usually the entire body of those people who are feeling or an empathic entity listening to a didgeridoo. Same with the bagpipes. I hear bagpipes and I just melt. So in Scotland last year, that whole thing, which is very, very Celtic based for me, that was the big memory, beautiful memories of the Scottish culture. Bagpipes have the same effect on the body as a didgeridoo might. So you've got these wonderful instruments and things. You've got your oils behind. You've got your colors. You've got your frequencies there. They are all part of the activation, reintegration, or the rememorizing of self in the context of your cosmic point of reference. And that's the thing I talk about and I teach in the cosmic integration, is moving your referencing away now from the human experience to your cosmic origin. Bingo. And then all of a sudden, everything starts to flow through. And there's no palaver. There's no... it's like everything that's gone on behind you becomes redundant when you're exposed to cosmic truth. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
they've
totally.
all been stepping stones, including me and the first avatar being dragged along to High Anglican Church every Sunday in the cold of winter with an empty belly, by the way, and this tremendous reflux, in order to keep my mother happy, and seeing this person on a cross in absolute agony. And I'm saying, this doesn't add up. I just did not believe it. I just could not believe that this was being taught to people who are really nice people, including my mother, and yet it's gone on. Now we're seeing people question that. Now we're seeing the robes dissolving, the facade falling apart, and that's beautiful. So all your colors and things, what do you call it? Is it aurosoma or what?
No, it's called color mirrors. So it's derived from the old aurosoma, but it's so much more embodied with light frequencies. So in a way, it's very similar to the seals. The seals each carry a frequency or an understanding that really are geared around helping humanity to remember their divinity. And I think that, you know, each frequency has a different resonance and is part of that ascension journey. And you know, the more you go through it, because it's connected to numerology as well, you know, and obviously color is the language of light, and it helps us, you know, become impeccable with our words, be mindful of our our human experience, and transcend that into our cosmic origins as well. So it's very aligned.
So you could actually pull up and through pendulum or through your intuition and ascribe a combination to each one of these seals.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's interesting because the silver Gaias and the platinum Gaias are more aligned to the energy that you're talking about, and actually to some extent some of the golden Gaias. For example, I'll show you. We've got some of these bottles here. So a lot of these frequencies, the silver, the diamond frequencies with the turquoise, or even the royal blue, these are the galactic gateway bottles, and these are the wisdom keeper and the new dawn bottles and the children of the light. So they are they help you to
I love it.
Your origins. They're amazing. And what you do is you just bathe in them. So you bathe in the it's all organic. It's actually avocado oil as a base, and they're infused with Ho'oponopono, light frequencies and crystal frequencies, and intention to help people to remember that they're divine. And
so you could put an oil on top of this, for instance, with the right meditative intentions, and of course it would be accelerated in one form or another.
Absolutely.
1056 all the way up to just under 3000, which is pretty amazing. The Master Seal doesn't have a frequency in its own right, but it is well beyond. It's not a combination. 2336 is the largest one, which is the last of the 12. But that's amazing. This here is incredible. I mean, this is the Onaka. This contains each of the 12. I'll just bring it a bit close here. Each of the 12 symbols. And this is our GPS, which I began talking about it, you know, when we began the interview. It's remarkable. And each one of these symbols has been dialed up now for humans and for Earth. So this is our guide stone as such for this time. Now, when I leave after December of this year, I've got another 7 to 13 years for this whole integration thing to run its course, for the space families to emerge. They're not going to turn up in craft and land on the Sydney Cricket Ground or the MCG or anything like that. they will begin emerging in communities and around groups who literally have that empathic complementary frequency. Because think about it, it's, if you pour mud into clear water, it's going to take a while for that water to become clear again, and certain things have to be done, and one of them is just being in the stillness of the moment. You talked about how you bathe in the frequency, and this is the key to the seals. You bathe in each of these frequencies. There's a saying that I apply. It's like running a warm bath, and you've got a herbal radox equivalent, and you lie in it and you just bask the entire body and the soul in the warmth of this love. And the more you do that, the more you do a star language and writing. That's the other thing too, disengaging. The star language and the writing is about sending different messages to muscles in your body, muscles in your throat, which sends harmonics through the body. So if you put your hands over your ears, it's amazing, because you can feel it run through all the way down to my ankles. My ankles are tingling right now. And that's a really good way to help literally dislodge density as quickly as possible, along with your goodies there as well. And
so really it's about disassociating with anything that's kind of aligned to the old three-dimensional paradigms, that were a construct to keep us controlled and to keep us as an alien slave race, fundamentally.
You've got it. And the human is literally being manufactured or created and downgraded to accommodate the needs of the Draco. Where does the word draconian come from, for instance? And there are remnants of this as well. Look,
Dracula.
And Dracula, yeah, Draco, all of that. So
what's next then, Scott? Like, what is coming next? I mean, you mentioned right at the beginning of this discussion that people are starting to wake up. They feel it through the resonance of their heart that they're being lied to through the media. The information that's coming through is just another, sort of dastardly plot to try and control our, where we go as a civilization. And so what's next? Because that, to me, can symbolize civil unrest. It can symbolize another war, for example. Nostradamus predicted in 2020 there was going to be a third world war, whether that's the war that we're fighting at the moment with COVID-19, or whether that's an actual physical world war that's going to take place between China, Russia, and America, and the rest of the world. What is next? What have the Elan told you?
What do you want next? Well,
I know what I want. I just want to be bathing in color.
There you go. So that is the vision. And the last few weeks to my Patreon group, I've been saying, listen, remain on focus here. Your task now is basically to remain focused on, yes, the seals, but also the feelings that you have with regard to the wonder of the new Earth emerging. So it's not so much the humans, because as I said before, the humans will be given three options. One, to stay with the Earth because they're actually vibrating at the same frequency as the Earth. Two, will be an opportunity to take to the skies again with a variety of species, including those that they're very familiar with, Pajaria, our eland and others, or stay with the dystopic reality. So it is a choice. It is an absolute choice here. What do you visualize a new Earth being? Do you visualize, some people who are into nature, lots of green trees? I visualize a reoxygenation of the atmosphere for a start, literally, and we're involved in that process already. One of the things that's occurring right now is a reoxygenization process. So while you have the CV thing lingering around, pollution has diminished considerably on the planet. You're seeing fish and wildlife return to certain parts of the planet because the humans are not there. Now, imagine if an event was to occur and everybody was actually in their homes. Imagine there's a 0 point, because there is a point of final correction that I talk about in the SEALs. Imagine that the timeline has actually been sped up and this could occur within the next few weeks, for instance. But just imagine that. How wonderful would that be? And I feel we'd actually find that there'd be more humans who want to return to their original glory. Now, Humana El, EL basically is like a designation for a light being, okay? Some people refer to it as God-like, but remember that we're each individuated expressions of the prime source. So there's nothing between you, me, and your viewers. There's nothing between us and the prime source. That's why through your idle thoughts at the moment, or through your meditation, or through your just quiet contemplation, you can talk to the prime source. The thing about God is that the whole thing was hijacked. The whole thing was hijacked. The Draco basically set themselves up as that God that people were told to believe in, that they had to go through that God in order to actually become illuminated. Well, we've removed that now, so there's nothing between you and that God and the prime source. This is the creator force. So where we come from in regards to receiving our instructions for the GPS, for instance, is pure thought. And I'm saying, listen, I would really, really love to spend a couple of lifetimes on a deserted island drinking coconuts and just swimming in the coolness of the surf. But I've got other work to do. I need to move on and continue to do what we're doing. And what we're doing is we're running before the wave here. So the wave started, literally, harmonic convergence in 1988. When did my walk-in experience occur? 1987. Okay, so that harmonic convergence occurred, and it was a big deal then. Lots of ceremonies and things around the planet. And then we've seen the ups and downs, and then we saw this convergence in conjunction back in January 12-13. There's another major one coming up on the 22nd of December. This minor one. So basically what's happening is it's like pushing open the classroom windows. Literally, the summer's returned, springtime. And you push open the classroom windows and you let all this new air and this new energy in. And that's what's happening right now.
What you're talking about is, just for those who don't know what you're talking about, is it's the conjunct between Saturn and Pluto.
Yep.
And that's what was happening in January in Uluru, and it's what's happening on the 21st, 22nd as well. And of course, we're moving out of Capricorn, which, is all our fossil fuels and all of that. We're moving into Aquarius, which is air. Yeah. So, of course, technology is going to be an advancement. There's going to be an advancement in the way that we move and travel around the planet. And of course, there's theories in which where we can actually be flying ourselves. And, if the truth of the matter is that time isn't linear, that it's all happening simultaneously, then it's even more probable that our timeline to rejuvenate the planet could happen within a couple of weeks, or even now.
It has sped up, Hayden. It has sped up. I said, okay, 6 months, but no, we're now 5.5 months ahead of time. Things are speeding up very, very quickly. And this is why I've said to everybody in my crew, just go for the 12 now. Just pull them up. Just look at them daily. Look at them daily. Reread the book. Reread the book. Reread the descriptive meaning of each of the symbols to enable you to actually crank up, moving at one with Mother Earth. People are already doing that. Okay, people are accelerating, whether it's grounding, walking on the beach. I've got the beach 30 meters from my back door. I'm really lucky. The quickening of all universal vibrations, and this is about feeling the cosmos in your entire being. As a light being, as an electric being, you feel all energies in the cosmos. You have the ability to filter. We know what filter is all about. We have the ability to transmute. We have the ability to create. We have the ability to actually construct and deconstruct. I'm not going to use the word destroy because people get the wrong idea, but we have the ability to construct and deconstruct. Each of and I've got a full list of my crew members on the craft, Jamul, and it's quite remarkable. They've all got specific jobs, and you'll be surprised, and this really surprised me. One of the crew members is Ramana Maharshi, who I visited Arunachala back in the 80s. So, when I was saying, you go to places, you meet people, you have these experiences, and not one of the people that I've met, one of the other humans that I met, or the places that I visited was by mistake. None of it was random. So I have, by virtue of conscious choice, gone and visited these places and been exposed to the energies of Ramana. And then only to find out that he is literally, the word comes into mind, Godfather. It's the wrong sort of word, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it's
He
definitely
just
not
sits
Godfather.
quietly. Yeah, he just sits quietly and he just literally ponders. But his energy and his emanations are so profound that it affects all of us on the craft. Borodon, Altanar, Rotek, Chevril, Jamil, Awishi. These are individuated light forms that have names and more of an electric type personality, but a lot of that is to describe their competencies and their skills, which is quite incredible.
So you also meant, sorry to interrupt you, Scott, but you also mentioned that the Antares being in the center of the constellation of Scorpio is red, and obviously anything red in color therapy is pushing away. You're saying that it's disappeared, but where's it gone? Did it explode? What happened to it?
Just the consciousness of the planet, just as Earth's, will in time be consumed or subsumed back into the prime source. So for want of a name, it went supernova. Okay, for want of a name, for want of a description, it literally went supernova. Everything just plasmarized, literally, and zoom back into the prime source.
When you talk about your family on the craft,
yeah.
Can you describe that craft? Are you talking about a Merkaba light body vehicle? Is that what it is, or?
Yes, I mean it is a light vehicle. It's a how to describe it? It's a neural organic vehicle that basically is just light, but it just literally runs on pure thought. It does have form when we give it form, and when we choose it not to have form, it doesn't have form. But it is a containment vessel, but it's a thought containment vessel that takes on form, that has the ability to traverse time, space, dimensions, multiverses.
So similar to the Rexagena that Valerie Barrow talks about?
Very similar, very similar. Yeah. Valerie, I met Valerie up in Uluru in January, and what a lovely soul. What a lovely, great connection. And John, her husband, just love them.
They're amazing beings. You know, she had a walk-in very similar to you. And all the people in her life that were there before changed, and everything has to change when you have that, because your frequency has altered, hasn't it?
Yeah, including the nature of the biological relationship with siblings and other people in your world. And I don't have any feelings towards my siblings other than pure cosmic emotion through love and through the care and compassion, how they're faring at this particular time. But that was just part and parcel of the end of that biological thing. The bringing on of the new workforce, the slaves, keep the slaves coming through, and that's all finished. One's a doctor, one's in the meat industry, and the other one's retired. So it's a very interesting combination here in terms of the thought process and the frequencies. So I'm very, very different from them. But does it mean to say that I wish harm for them or anything? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They've got to make their own choices as well. And you know what, Hayden, sometimes members of families come along in order to be a reflection for other members of the family for the specific reason. I know my partner is a very similar situation. I know, without giving too much detail away, that she came into this world to reflect something into her family soul group that the family could respond to. And did they all get it? No, not back then. Did her mother get it? No, definitely not. Are they getting it now? Yes, they are, which is really interesting, because when I went to Scotland last year, I just fell in love with them. They're my family. I have that closer relationship with them than I have with my own siblings. And that just, again, comes back to this whole issue of detachment from anything that basically wasn't real before or was part of the old regime of temporal construction. Right?
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, Scott, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today. And if people want to get a hold of the Antares Seals, they jump onto Amazon, can't they? And I'll put a link down below to let
Well,
people.
yeah, I've got books here, and it's easier and faster. The Antares Seals, two
Yeah.
S's, Antares S and Seals SEALS.com, and I can get books away to them post haste, which is really, really cool.
And you've also got the cards as well, haven't you? You've got the
I've
Oracle cards.
got some vision cards, the first round of vision cards. Yep. Also links to a package of orgon generators and translators.
Yeah, I'm all into orgons as well.
Yep.
Show us your orgon.
Yeah, I'll show you the big one here, and I did have a slightly smaller one. I don't know where it's gone to, but this is perfect. So what this does, it basically works on on the etheric energy that's actually in your immediate space. Up here at the moment, we've got massive butterfly migration, just thousands of them, beautiful butterflies flying through the air, and we went up to 1770 heads today. And I just looked at them and I got a little video and I thought, yeah, etheric cleansing. They're in there cleaning up the ethers. And that's what they do. And this is what these orgon generators do. They clean up the ethers. And what does it allow you to do? It allows you to communicate through thought and feeling with your space family so much easier. Okay, so much easier. This is what is going home. This is what going home feels like. When you reunite with your space family. And there's not one human being on this planet at the moment that didn't arrive here. There is no original human being here. Forget about the apes and the Darwinian thing. That's all trash. It's all rubbish. That's all a bunch of lies. Everything basically began as a seeded entity, an organism, and that reflection basically is going to merge again, where you can stand before your mothers, your fathers, and your siblings, but they don't have those titles. They're just your family. And it's a beautiful thing. And where is it going to start? I believe in Central Australia, without doubt.
And it's all happening now, and that's the key, really. It's happening now. It's not happening 20 years down the track or 400 years down the track. It's happening now. So this is where we have to start making, we have to make decisions now. What is it that you want? And
and sure, if there's any resistance to this, in behind the resistance, there's tremendous wisdom in behind resistance. So sit in it. Sit in any resistance. Let the answers come to you. No one's forcing anybody to believe anything here. And this whole issue, like the Prime Directive from Star Trek, not interfering in the culture of the timeline of another cultural species, or taking the process of choice away from them. That freedom of choice is particularly important, and it does translate to this particular time. And I have to say that, if you want to wait another 300 years and go through the trauma and tribulation of a dystopic environment, you're free to do that. The beautiful thing is that even after 300 years, one or two things will happen. The pain will be so great for that part of the earth that's split off. She will either implode and reintegrate in the prime into the prime thought, or they'll have an opportunity to do what we're doing now, and that basically is to integrate with her. And allow that frequency just to increase.
It reminds me quite a lot of a film that I just watched the other day called Platform. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's definitely worth watching, because it's almost like an analogy of the different frequencies of existence. Actually it's 333 levels of existence that go right down into the very dark dystopic type of reality, where people have turned into cannibals, and all of that sort of stuff, whereas the higher, on the higher levels, you've got abundance and prosperity and harmony and things like that. And it's set within the construct of a kind of like a surreal vertical prison. Yeah. But, it might help people to fully understand the levels of depravity that could happen if you don't opt to hop off and hop on.
But Hayden, look at it now, and I can't help, that empathic aspect of me, which I've become quite objective in terms of my relationship, and I teach people objectivity, and this is a key. How do you not get involved in the old shitey minutia? Because And that comes back to discernment and objectivity. Step back and bear witness to the events that are occurring before you. Bear witness to the CD thing that's occurring in front of you. We don't have any issues up here. You know, we're away. We're in the best possible place, as I'm sure you are and many others are. And all of it. And if you didn't turn the TV on and have anything you wouldn't know what was going on. You know, we're still managing to go, you know, and purchase our groceries and do whatever's at the one supermarket down. And yes, there's social distancing and hand sanitizers at the door. And apart from that, nothing's changed. We can still get our petrol. We can still do our banking. And that's the most amazing thing about this time, that those fundamental things like sewage and electricity and running hot and cold water and food, they're still available. So therefore, we're dealing with a consciousness change. We're dealing with a consciousness change, because if all of that was suddenly taken away, then we'd be dealing with something else even greater, like the continuation of someone's agenda. So we were very, very keen to ensure that the systems of comfort and care were kept in train. And even in America, they're continuing to do this. And if it takes another 3 or 4 weeks, and by the way, this thing will turn off as quickly as it turned on. You watch.
I know.
All right.
I know.
Meantime, there are people, you know, griefed up to the eyeballs. There's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. You know, this is not about giving people false hope. It's your choice what reality you want to create here. And for those viewers who can't find it within them, get hold of the seals. Read the book. Let something permeate your heart. Let the love of the Prime Source permeate your being. Let my and your frequencies radiate with you. You know, direct and reflect. This is what you're doing. You're directing and then you're reflecting. You're putting it out there and then it's coming back. You're putting it out there. And we work overtime. In fact, there's no such thing as 24 hours a day. I mean, my nights are just as busy as as my days at the moment.
More exhausting, I think. Totally more exhausting. But we wouldn't have it any other way. And that's the thing, you know, everybody is waking up, you know, in their own time and in their own way. And that's the beautiful thing. And I think that's why when you ask anybody about how they're feeling right now, instead of you hearing them moaning or complaining, you're just hearing people saying, that's great. You know, I haven't heard anyone say that they're not having a good time. People are just like glad to have some rest.
Yeah, the people are sleeping, Hayden. More people are sleeping. The body is tired. So you think about it. You've got all these new energies coming in. People have been forced into their houses and they're being forced to rest. They're being forced to quieten down. They're being forced to reflect with their family members, their wives or their children, their animals, the nature, their gardens. So, you know, even though while it looks pretty crappy on the outside world, we're using this to good purpose right now. We're using this for a very integral purpose right now, because it is going to actually enable people to actually connect with the likes of the seals right now, which is really important.
It is
really important.
Fantastic work you're doing, Scott, and once again, thank you so much for your time today. And you know, if anyone feels so inclined, feel free to reach out to Scott. I'm sure you'll be more than happy to answer anybody's questions or queries through email. Scott?
Absolutely. Email through the AntaresSeals.com website, and I mentioned the Patreon site as well, where I deliver weekly updates, and I also do video updates quite regularly every week to the tier 2 people. But also at the moment, even though it's not part of the deal, I've always over delivered. You know, on the odd days I will do pieces to camera relating to the need to remain focused. Like 2 nights ago, I just got it very clear. There are still people off searching. There's still people off reading the books. There's still people off thinking, I wonder if that'll be it. I wonder if that'll be it. And, you know, I can't take my book and beat them over the head, but I can implore them to actually just touch their heart and feel the integral essence of what I'm sharing here, and allow it to imbue the heart to such an extent that realization begins to emerge, a sense of comfort through knowing. And I think that's the key, a sense of comfort through knowing. And then if they want to go further with, some sort of integration work, then I can help them go another step further. And most of it is really just an awakening on their own. They're just walking and just pulling the curtains apart and seeing other things and having other realizations and things like that. And it's got to be with ease and grace. We've heard this thing about, no pain without pain. Well, that's all rubbish. That's crazy. It's got to be easy now, because all that old adage, look, even the football players aren't playing. So all the external things that people, even F1, everything, the bands, the festivals, all that stuff is being literally cancelled, postponed, and everybody's being forced back into their heart right now to basically look deep inside. So we're using this opportunity to penetrate and comfortably infiltrate through these sorts of interviews the hearts of some beautiful souls out there who have so much to give to the new earth, so much to give to the new earth.
Absolutely. Great. All right then, Scott. Well, look, I'll love you and leave you. Well, I'm sure we'll catch up again in the future at some point. But I wish you all the best in your plight with the Elan and the Antares Seals. I think they're amazing.
Thank you.
Bye for now.